The mortuary temple of Ramesses III at Medinet Habu is an important New Kingdom period structure in the West Bank of Luxor in Egypt. Aside from its size and architectural and artistic importance, the temple is probably best known as the source of inscribed reliefs depicting the advent and defeat of the Sea Peoples during the reign of Ramesses III. Description: the temple, some 150 meters long, is of Orthodox design, and resembles closely the nearby mortuary temple of Ramesses II. The temple precinct measures approximately 210 meters by 300 meters and contains more than 7,000 square meters of decorated wall reliefs. Its walls are relatively well preserved and it is surrounded by a massive mud brick enclosure, which may have been fortified. The original entrance is through a fortified gatehouse, known as a migdal. Just inside the enclosure, to the south, are chapels of Amenadiside, Shepanupet II and Nitocrat, all of whom had the title of divine adoratrice of Ammon. The first pylon leads into an open courtyard, lined with colossal statues of Ramesses III as Osiris on one side, and uncarved columns on the other. The second pylon leads into a peristyle hall, again featuring columns in the shape of Ramesses. This leads up a ramp that leads to the third pylon and then into the large hypostyle hall. Reliefs and actual heads of foreign captives were also found placed within the temple, perhaps in an attempt to symbolize the king's control over Syria and Nubia. In Coptic times, there was a church inside the temple structure, which has since been removed. Some of the carvings in the main wall of the temple have been altered by Coptic carvings. The royal palace was directly connected with the first courtyard of the temple via the window of appearances. Minor king list. The Medinet Habu king list is a procession celebrating the festival of Min, with the names of 9 pharaohs. It can be found on the upper register of the eastern wall in the second courtyard. Excavation. Initial excavation of the temple took place sporadically between 1859 and 1899, under the auspices of the Department of Antiquities. During these decades the main temple was cleared, a large number of Coptic period buildings removed and the site made accessible to visitors. The further excavation, recording and conservation of the temple has been facilitated in chief part by the Architectural and Epigraphic Surveys of University of Chicago's Oriental Institute. Almost continuously since 1924, Ramesh had columns in the peristyle court, a view of the Migdal Tower at Medinet Habu. Glass and faience inlays found at the royal palace of Medinet Habu depicting Egypt's traditional enemies. Egypt, Medinet Habu, Thebes. Brooklyn Museum Archives, Goodyear Archival Collection. Egypt, Pavilion of Ramesses III, Thebes. Brooklyn Museum Archives, Goodyear Archival Collection. March 2014 photos. Habu Temple scene. Note the colors. Habu Temple scene. Key for the door. Habu Temple scene. Hall. Habu Temple scene. Pharaoh rules. Habu Temple scene. Note the god gives Pharaoh an ankh, life. Habu Temple anointing scene. Archaeological reports. The Epigraphic Survey, Medinet Habu I, earlier historical records of Ramses III. The Epigraphic Survey, Medinet Habu II, later historical records of Ramses III. The Epigraphic Survey, Medinet Habu III, the calendar, the slaughterhouse, and minor records of Ramses III. The Epigraphic Survey, Medinet Habu IV, festival scenes of Ramses III. The Epigraphic Survey, Medinet Habu V, the temple proper, Part 1. The Epigraphic Survey, Medinet Habu VI, the temple proper, Part 2. The Epigraphic Survey, Medinet Habu VII, the temple proper, Part 3. The Epigraphic Survey, Medinet Habu VIII, the East and High Gate. W.F. Edgerton, Medinet Habu graffiti facsimiles. UVO Holscher, Medinet Habu 1924–1928. 2. The Architectural Survey of the Great Temple and Palace of Medinet Habu. OIC, No. 5, Chicago. University of Chicago Press, 1929. H.J. Thyssen, Die Demotische Graffiti von Medinet Habu, Zunisazu Temple und Kult im Ptolemäischen Ägypten.